Hi, this is my dad, Mark Rickers. Hi, Dad.
Hello.
So, Dad, what do you remember about being Norwegian as a child?
Well, I do remember family and food. Those are the two big things. And with us, family centered around the farm. I grew up actually in the city, but my grandfather and later my father farmed the family farm, which had been in our family for 125 years. During some of the big events, we would have the whole family come over. One of the big events was baling hay. And we would bring all of our uncles and all their children over to help us bale hay. So there would be one uncle would be out on the baler in the field, and there would be another uncle driving the tractor, bringing the hay back to the barn, and then somebody would be driving the tractor to raise the hay up into the barn, and then my grandfather would be in the barn actually moving the hay. And us kids got to ride around back on the back of the hay trailers, or we'd actually be in the barn helping move the hay around. That was a lot of fun, though.
How old were you when this all happened?
I suppose the first time I did it that I remember was probably 6, 7. And then when we got older, then they wanted us to really work hard, and then you had to lift the bales up. Then it wasn't any fun anymore.
Of course not, no.
Now it was just work. But you would have to lift the hay when it would come off the baler and put it up onto the rack. And it was pretty tight to stand there sometimes. I remember one time when I lifted one bale up, I lost my balance and fell off the hay rack while I was moving. That was scary.
Was this like a whole day thing?
Yes. And then we had, so usually in the morning, they'd start real early in the morning, and all the men would be out working, and then the women would all be making food for lunch.
What types of food would they make?
They would make just, ham sandwiches and stuff with lots of butter on the bread. I don't know if that's a Norwegian thing, but it always was. And then they would make desserts, and it would be kringle, krumkake. Those are our favorites. Kringle is like a pastry dessert that's sweet, and you put butter on it. Krumkake is more like an ice cream cone, but it's not designed to put anything in it. It's just a flaky, crusty dessert, which is really good. We loved eating those.
I don't know if I've ever had that.
You've had krumkake. My family friends that are also Norwegian used to make those all the time as Christmas presents and give out to every one of their quote grandchildren. They never married. She's still alive. She's 102.
Oh, Elizabeth.
Yes. Elizabeth, yes.
All right, I definitely remember her.
Yes, those are very good. They're very hard to make, and you end up burning your fingers a lot.
Like the kringle are pretty hard to make too. We've done that a lot.
Yeah, those are hard to make. They're sticky, but they're sweet and they're really good. You haven't had kumla, which is another Norwegian meal. The church out where we still attend is mostly Norwegian in Iowa, but it was, they have a kumla night once a year, and it's made out of, it's like a potato dumpling, very heavy and rich. But we really enjoy eating that kind of food, so.
Yeah, I don't think I've had that at all.
No.
Well,
other Norwegian foods, too, that we used to eat, but I never liked them very much. I remember as a kid, we would go to Story City. There was even more Norwegians that lived there. Because all the Norwegians were farmers. And
oh, so this is in Iowa.
This is in Iowa, okay. Yes. And we would actually they moved to Iowa because that's where the land was available. And so they kept in their small communities as immigrants, small communities. They spoke Norwegian. They went to Norwegian churches. As a kid, I actually learned a couple Norwegian songs for church, but sorry, I don't remember them at all, and I don't even know what they said at the time. One of those things you have to do when you're 3 or 4 or 5. So.
And you remember a lot as a child. That's
yes, but they had
good.
A restaurant in Story City where a lot of the Norwegians were that they served lutefisk. It's a fish. It's fish that they actually take lye, which is
what
like
is lye?
Caustic. And it's like ammonia. It's like really caustic and stinky, but it softens the fish up, and then they wash it off, and then they cook it a little bit, and then you eat this kind of gummy fish, and it stinks. And I remember as a kid going there and going with my father and my mother, and we'd go up these narrow stairs, and I kept on saying, I don't like fish, and even more so, it stinks in here. Why would anyone want to eat? But Norwegians that's what they ate mostly, was fish and then potatoes. And there wasn't a lot of flavors, but they just used a lot of butter and other things to give it some flavor.
That's, yeah, interesting. So Grandpa, he still lives there, right? He still doesn't live in
He still
Iowa?
lives in Iowa. He, after my grandfather passed away, he farmed the family farm until he retired off the farm and retired from farming, but he stayed on the family farm houses. The actual family farm was sold to one of my grandfather's sister's sons. So it's still in the family, so it's now been in the family for about 140 years. But now my dad has moved off the farm and he's living in Ames, Iowa, which is the home of the Iowa State Cyclones, where I went to school.
Well, thank you, Dad.